Thank you.
Mr. Thwaite, much of the ground I wanted to cover has already been touched on, but I'll try not to repeat what we've earlier discussed. You referred, Minister, to the binary system. Now, the binary metric of reducing reconviction. Are you happy, in light of what you've had from the consultation, that this is the proper way forward?
Well, I mean, as I said, I'm open on the detail of the pricing structure. And we're only now going through the responses to the consultation, so I can't give you a definitive final answer, but I can tell you my instincts are. It's that core issue. One of the obvious questions is that if we reduce the propensity of a prolific offender to reoffend, that's clearly a step in the right direction. But is this a step in a direction we want to pay for? Now, actually my view is that because we're trying to contain both detention and support into a geographic area, that the provider who actually turns a prolific offender into a less prolific offender will reap the benefits themselves anyway, because if that person goes back to prison, they're going to be released to the same provider subsequently anyway. And if you've reduced the level of reoffending and got them closer to a point where they stop altogether, the provider will benefit from doing that. But do we really, as taxpayers and as government departments that are operating on behalf of the taxpayers, want to pay a provider for, say, getting somebody to burgle half the number of houses they were burgling previously? I think that's much more difficult to sustain. And so my natural instinct is a pricing structure that encourages providers to work with the more prolific offenders and not just to park them in the corner because they are prolific offenders. But one of the purposes of doing consultation this early is to look for good ideas. And we're just going through that now. And if somebody's got a smart idea about how to do it better, I'm very open to that.
And to be fair, you have recognised that there is a risk of providers, I wouldn't say playing the system's rather crude thing to say, but I think gaming is the polite term for it, not providing the same levels of service to all offenders. Have you thought yet about what strategies you might employ to avoid that? It also encompasses what Mr Dubois said about what he called conflicts of interest. It's the same issue, isn't it?
I think there's two parts to that. First of all, there's an obligation to meet the orders of the court, and that will be a non-negotiable for any provider. And it's why we don't go on this to 100% payment by results. It's why there will have to be part payment for service delivered in terms of meeting the orders of the court. What we did with the work programme was to set a minimum performance level or minimum support level for each individual. Now, we didn't specify what that should be, but what we said to bidders was, in your bids, you need to tell us the minimum level of support you're going to provide for everyone. So there's an absolute bottom line that prevents you doing nothing for people. And if you do nothing for people in breach of that, we'll sack you. And I think there is, what we're clearly going to be doing in looking at bids is understanding the quality element, what the approach is, understanding the degree of holistic thinking that's gone into preventing reoffending and reducing reoffending. But also we'll want to see evidence that there's a baseline there to prevent premium parking. And it will certainly be a factor we will consider in judging the quality of bids. So I do not want us to be in a position, now maybe we use the same mechanism again of a minimum support level that the bidders themselves set, and we judge one versus the other and say which is going to be better, what's acceptable to us. I don't see us in a position where we can give the providers contractual freedom to do nothing for a group of people.